Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Plant This Seed. Do do do. I slept really well. I stayed up till 4 a.m., so
Okay.
bear with me. But you got Nathan, and you got Cameron, the host that you know and love, and we got another episode today. So, Cam, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I also did not sleep very well. Just binging some Lord of the Rings. You know, just in that mood. Did not sleep.
Frodo didn't get a day off, and I'm not going to either.
Oh
So,
no,
I
we're going straight to Mount Doom right now.
just it's there. You get no sleep after that point. You had fun with all of the elves. You got nice little rest. No more. It's over. Now, did you watch just the Lord of the Rings series, or did you throw the Hobbit series in there too?
I watched The Hobbit, but not the series. I watched the old '90s animated film. It's only
Oh
like an hour
wow!
and a half.
So the abridged version of the Hobbit.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's more accurate to the book, and it's like several hours shorter than the trilogy. So I was like, all right.
Huh. Now, one thing about Frodo is I would say he had to have a lot of patience. You guys
Oh.
don't know what that means yet, but I do. You'll get it later. You won't laugh at it now, but later on in the podcast, you'll be like, "Oh," and then you'll still be disappointed in me. It's okay.
Yeah, they still won't laugh later, but they'll understand it.
It will make at least sense. Um, do you want to go ahead? I know last week we asked a quiz, or like the trivia question was from what classic play was the episode's title of reference to? And just as a reminder, that reference or the title was Et tu Judas. Um, if you don't know the story of this one, look it up when we give the answer for it. I think, Cameron came up with this and I think it's brilliant. It fits very well. But Cameron, do you want to give the answer and a little bit of an
Yeah. So
explanation?
basically, it's a very old story. Some of you may not know it. It's by William Shakespeare. It's called Julius Caesar, and there's this scene that's like E tu Brute, where Caesar's best friend Brutus, stabs him in the back, which is kind of what Judas did to Jesus. So we stole that from Shakespeare. I know many of you younger people may not know anything about Shakespeare, but once you get to high school, you will know.
I had somebody I was talking to listens to the podcast and had asked me, like, I don't know. I'm gonna guess and say that it's Shakespeare. And I was like, well, you nailed it. Good job. And he's like, I only know of Shakespeare. And I was like, do you know what play it's from? He's like, oh, Romeo and Juliet. I'm like, nope, not that one. And then he goes, Hamlet. I'm like, not that one. He's like, that's all of them I know. And I was like, it's okay. Most people only know those two. It's all right. But very fitting title, though. I was very impressed. So well done, Cameron. Look at you go.
Oh wow, thank you.
So rather than do like a current event this week, I thought it'd be kind of fun just to have some, a random moment of random topics where we just randomly talk about randomness because we're half asleep and or half awake or whatever you want to call it. And what better way than to kick it off with some fun conversations from our random minds at this moment.
Yeah, so the first random thing to talk about is uh, the episode title, Zero to James Charles, the Corona teen scale. What is this?
Okay, so I get it. This is gonna need some explanation. I have gotten to a point in my Corona teen boredom where I just go on YouTube and I go to the trending and I just start binge watching a bunch of videos. And then, like, at the end of the video, they'll give me like recommendations on the right side and I'll just like click through them. So, like, I usually find myself in a series of videos. And yesterday, it never, I don't know why this is the case. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe it's actually trying to recommend things to me that they think I want to watch. But it never ceases to fail that no matter what series of shows or videos that I'm watching and clicking through, I always fall down this YouTube like pit and I somehow end up on James Charles. like through the hole that I fall down, I am recommended a video for James Charles. So the scale that I now use to tell that I have been on YouTube for too long or I am super bored is the 0 to James Charles scale, where 0 is the trending page on YouTube and James Charles is how far I've fallen down the YouTube rabbit hole. It has gotten to a point now where I'll text friends of mine who tell me like they're gonna get on to like play games, and I'll be like, okay, I'm on ground 0 right now. I'll let you know when I make it to James Charles. And I have legitimately gotten to that point. I screenshotted one yesterday, sent it to a friend, and he's like, I'm coming to save you. And he got online. So that is how I am now judging my boredom and my time wasting during Corona Teen is the 0 to James Charles Corona Teen scale. So maybe next week we'll check in and see like where do I fall on the scale for that week. So
Yeah, I think I've reached the James Charles level pretty much every day. It's like I haven't gotten recommended any James Charles videos except one. It was like him doing like some military thing with this other YouTuber and the Markiplier. I was like, what?
That was the one that I stumbled upon. That's how this all happened. Fun video though.
Yeah, it was like this military YouTuber doing military like boot camp training with Markiplier, some guy named Ethan, and James Charles. I was like, why would I want to watch this?
I did watch it though. I'm not gonna lie.
I didn't watch it. I think I put it on my watch later, so I could have something to watch at 4 a.m. But
I usually put like all the YouTube videos I want to watch as separate tabs on my computer, and I just like start closing them out. And so like my friends know now when they text me, they're like, okay, how many videos until James Charles? And they use that to gauge like how long they have before they should really jump online and do something about it. So yesterday I'm like, I've got 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh, it's next. And they were online. I was like, yes.
Yeah, I've recently I just downloaded like a few days ago that new Call of Duty Warzone.
Ooh.
And because I have nothing else to do, and I'm not I won't subject myself to Fortnite, so
smart choice.
So yeah, I'm just playing a little bit of that, and I'm terrible. I haven't come close to winning, not once. I did win twice, but they were both in the training with computers, not real people.
So what platform do you play on?
Xbox.
Okay, I got you.
I'm a PlayStation guy, but all my friends have Xbox, so I had to conform.
One thing, I don't know if you know this, Warzone is backwards compatible, so you can actually play with people who are on PlayStation, Xbox, or PC.
Yeah, it's cross-compatible.
Cross-compatible. Compatible. That's right.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. One of my friends has a PS4, and he was like, "We should hop on." I was like, "I have an Xbox," and he's like, "Doesn't matter." I got so confused.
It's one of the first games that does that. So I'll add you. I'll get your name after this, and I'll add you, and we'll play later. And then we might be like last place, but we'll have fun doing it. That's what matters. If you guys have listening people's, I'm going to get my mom on Warzone and have her join. That'd be a fun podcast. My mom plays Warzone.
Yeah, everybody drop your gamer tags in the comments.
We want to add you. We'll play. But I have resorted to like my gaming right now. Sims 4 was on sale, and I figured if I can't give myself a fun life, I'll give a virtual character a fun life. So I started at midnight yesterday, and I was like, I'll play for like 30 minutes, and I'll go to bed. And I'm like building a house, having fun. I look at the time, it's 4 a.m. I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And so I was like, well, do I have to go to bed? I could just stay up all night. I did go to sleep. But it did cross my mind to just like I don't even know, make poor life decisions and stay up all night playing The Sims.
Yeah, usually when you sit down and you say, I'm going to do this for like an hour, it never ends up being an hour. Like, especially when it comes to like social media. This morning, so I went to bed at like 3 a.m. and woke up at like 7 a.m. And I was like, I'm going to check my phone real quick. And I went on Instagram and I was like, I'll be on here for like 5 minutes and then go back to sleep because I'm lazy. I was on there until like 10 o'clock.
Oh.
It was like just like 3 hours of scrolling through Instagram. And then I woke everybody up because I was laughing really loud because, I love memes. They're great.
Yes. Did you happen to stumble upon James Charles during that journey, or?
Thank God I did not.
No, you did not.
I did not.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into kind of like our segment 2 here. If you haven't noticed already from the podcast title, we're gonna have, this is the part 1 of the topic we're gonna talk about, and we kind of split this into a part 2, and we'll tell you a little bit more of why that's the case. If you haven't listened to like Wednesday's lesson on the Beacon like Teens YouTube channel, highly recommend it. Kind of gives you some more background in regards to the story we're going to talk about today, and then the story that we're going to talk about for next week's podcast as well. But either way, even if you're not able to listen to it, we'll give you 2 different summaries the best that we can. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in here and kind of give you a summary, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But the summary here is to bless the Israelites for their promised commitment to follow and serve the God who freed them from the Egyptians. God works for 46 plus days designing a place for himself and the Israelites to have a stronger relationship, the tabernacle. In their impatience, the Israelites demand an idol be created so they can worship it in place of the God who saved them. While their mouths said they wanted a committed relationship with God, their hearts and their actions didn't reflect the same. As a result, the Israelites' impatience nearly resulted in the wrath of God, and they almost missed out on the opportunity that God had been crafting for them. So again, as kind of a general disclaimer here, there's like 2 main topics that were talked about, at least in Brad's lesson, where those were patience as well as meeting God's expectations. So I kind of want to look at the topic of patience, which I don't have very well. Very often. So this one should be really fun to go through. But one thing I was thinking of with this story is this idea that the Israelites, they waited 46 days. And some people might be like, wow, they couldn't wait, more than that. And I looked at this and I was like, I don't think I could wait a week, let alone 46 days. Like 46 days sounds like patience to me.
Yeah, like 46 minutes is a long time, so I don't know, 46 days.
When I'm at Disney World and the line says maybe 30 minutes, I'm like, oh,
I just don't get in the line. I'm like, no, too long.
I don't want that. If I can't immediately jump in that line and jump on that ride, not for me. Sorry. But do you think, so this kind of, we kind of covered this already, but do you think you could patiently wait to receive something for more than 46 days?
No. I think I'm a fairly patient person, especially, like with other people. I don't like blow up on them when they annoy me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I try to be patient, but like if I'm eagerly waiting for something for 46 days, I'm going to start to get a little mad because I'm like, I want it and I want it now. I guess that's like the mentality most people have.
I've been like out of food to cook at my house for like a week now or so. And I keep telling myself I need to go grocery shopping. But at the same time, I haven't because I don't want to have to wait in a line outside the grocery store for me to go in and get groceries. That's how impatient I am. I'd rather starve than to go wait in a line at Walmart or Kroger to get inside to get my food. So I could not wait 46 days. I mean, I can't even wait 20 minutes outside.
Oh yeah, I feel that. It's like I would rather stay home and just like order from DoorDash than go to the grocery store. And like my parents went to the grocery store like last week, and usually it takes like an hour and a half. They were gone for like 4.5 hours. That's insane.
I feel like at this point, if I was to record my life as a vlog, you'd be watching the next My 300-Pound Life superstar. Like by the end of this, they're gonna have to roll me out, and I'm just gonna have like DoorDash stuff everywhere because that's all I've been ordering. It's not a healthy lifestyle. I did have a thing of green beans yesterday, and then immediately ate a bag of chips. But
oh yeah, I told my parents I was gonna try to eat more healthy. My dad's a vegan, and I was considering going vegan. And what does my mom do when she comes from home from the store today? She brings home ding dongs and Swiss rolls. I'm
Oh,
like the exact opposite of what I need right now, and I'm going to eat them for
yep.
sure.
I have no self control. It's over.
Oh, I have the biggest sweet tooth ever. My dad brought home like 3 bags of candy, and I ate like half of it by myself. I,
No.
I have no self control whatsoever when it comes to like anything chocolate. I can't help myself.
Yeah, no, I keep telling myself I'm gonna get on a diet tomorrow, and tomorrow hasn't come yet.
Yeah,
Uh,
tomorrow's like 5 years from now when I'm
yeah,
like 700 pounds.
yep. So, what's the longest that you've ever had to wait to receive something?
18 years for a high school degree.
And you don't even get to walk the stage.
Yeah, and I'm not even getting it. Or
Oh,
9 months just to be born.
oh my word, that's a long time.
Yeah,
I
champions.
Most of the things like I've had to wait for, I feel like everything feels like forever when I have to wait. Like my birthday could be tomorrow, and I could know that somebody got me something for my birthday, and it would feel like 100 years.
Oh yeah, the more you actually like want something to be there, the longer it is gonna take. But like the more you like dread something coming, it's coming super fast.
I think the longest I had to wait. I try not to think about it because I am an extremely impatient person. But the longest think that I remember having to wait, and I felt it, was we went to Disney World, and there was some new ride. Like I don't even think it was new. I think it's been out for a while, but new for me. They had this ride in the little Avatar section where you feel like you're flying or whatever. An amazing ride, but the wait for it was like I think it was like 2 hours.
Oh no, you.
And there was one point where we were just standing in the dark little area where my emotions changed so rapidly, where I was hit with that Disney magic where I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not on Earth anymore. Like I'm in a whole new world."
Uh,
And so and then that Disney magic quickly changed into realizing the children around me who were screaming and us standing super close to one another, and oh, it was rough. Worth it though. It was worth the wait. The ride is amazing. I would do it again. I just wouldn't be happy for the first 2 hours I was waiting, but I would do it.
yeah, I don't think I could wait that long for a ride, especially because roller coasters are not my thing.
I don't even think it was a roller coaster. It's weird. It's worth it. You could do it. I think. Hopefully, maybe. So, in terms of like kind of comparing this to the Israelites, the Israelites essentially are having to wait for like God and Moses to come back off of a mountain. They're basically told like stay here, wait for until we come back. They're not really given a time period, so we know because of the end of the story it took 46 some odd days for Moses to come back to the Israelites. But you really have to put yourself in the shoes of them, I think. They didn't know a time period. So this is like standing in that Disney line with no current wait time and just hoping you're going to get on the ride. I think there's a lot of faith that has to go into that. And I'm sure that it was probably very like quiet. So has there been a time where you felt like God was just really quiet, or maybe even slipped into an idea that it felt like God maybe just abandoned you?
Yeah, I feel like everybody's really felt like that. I know, like a few years ago, like going into high school, I was, stuff was going on, and I was at camp over the summer, and I was waiting for something to happen. Nothing even really important, and I was just like, uh, it hasn't happened yet, and I've been praying for it for a while.
Mm.
I wasn't like asking for anything, but I was like waiting for things to change, even though I could have changed it myself. But high schoolers be like that.
Yeah, I feel like you said, I think everybody has gotten to a point where they just feel pretty alone. Yeah, where I find myself kind of slipping into that mindset are times where It's not even that I feel like God isn't there. It's more so like God hasn't performed what I wanted in the way that I wanted it to happen. And so because it didn't happen in the way I expected, I just get frustrated. And then because it didn't happen a certain way, I'm like, well, then God must have just left me and he's mad at me and angry. And I don't think that that's the case. I don't, obviously, with this story with the Israelites, it wasn't the case for them either. Yes, God was, I think, maybe, I don't want to say quiet, but maybe didn't feel like he was actively there, which, side note, if you read the story, there's a massive cloud that's really scary on top of a mountain as a reminder that God is up there working. So they have a visual reminder every day that he hasn't left. But for them, I think it was just that patience where they just got tired of the quietness. So I've been there. I get it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I just think like sometimes people, especially like me, like I'll have something going on in my life and I'll be like, God, can you like change this for me, make it a little better? My life is kind of sucking right now, but it's only being bad because I've made bad decisions. So instead of like taking responsibility, like I'm gonna change how I do things so my life looks better, I'm just asking God to do it for me, putting it all on Him.
sure.
I feel like a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we just kind of take for granted some of the things that God does in meticulous detail or his attention to certain things when he's like crafting something for us. I think too often we just assume that because God has the power to just speak something into existence, that's how he kind of handles everything. And I think there's a lot of places in the Bible that actually show that when he wants to put really specific detail into something, he really does that. Everything down to the creation of human. Like, it's the one item that he actually forms and crafts with his hands to meticulously build and put on earth. The same thing I think happens in this story too, where he's meticulously planning a way for the Israelites to be able to be committed or have a committed relationship with him, and not just the benefit of himself, but to the benefit of the Israelites, to build and strengthen that relationship between the two of them. So with that in mind, we've kind of talked about it a little bit already, but have there been times where you've tried to fix something on your own that could have been different had you just kind of waited for that crafting that God was doing?
Oh yeah, pretty much my life story. I think I know some people that I am pretty close with are exactly like this, which is probably why I'm friends with them. Is like I'm super stubborn, and I try to do everything on my own and don't like asking for help ever. So instead of like being patient and just waiting for God to work, I'll just be like, nope, I'm going to do it myself, and that never ends well. I make some pretty bad decisions sometimes, but
Sure. Yeah, I feel like, I do that too. I don't like to have to like throw my hands up in the air all the time and admit that I can't do something. So,
so yeah, I'm never the one like I can't admit when I'm not able to do something. Like even if I'm incapable of doing it, I'm still gonna try just so I can not ask somebody else to help me.
sure. One of
Yeah.
the YouTube videos I stumbled upon before I got to the James Charles level, I was probably somewhere in between the middle of my YouTube hole before I stumbled upon James Charles. But one of the videos I watched, it was a ton of fun. One of my favorite podcasts is a podcast called The Tripod. It's by these guys. They're called the Try Guys, and they just try random things.
Oh yeah, I've seen them.
Love them. One thing that they do or did in a video is they try to assemble a piece of IKEA furniture without the instructions.
Oh no.
And it's so entertaining. It's so much fun. But in that video, one guy was able to pull off putting it together, and I think the other guys, they just did not. It was a mess. And I feel like that is the case a lot of times when it comes to us having a relationship with God. We have the instructions right in front of us that kind of says, hey, if you wait, you're going to have this amazing product that I'm building and designing for you. But just like them trying to put together these shelving units because they didn't have patience and they didn't use the instructions, they created a monstrosity. it was it was something. So, I think having a relationship with God is the same thing. We can try to fix it in the way that we want, and the end result is ultimately going to be a mess. Not because that it was God's fault, but God was just saying, had you waited, I could have crafted you something way better, but you took matters into your own hands, and here's the consequence for that. I've dealt with that. Like you said, it's like story of my life.
Yeah, and then especially when you try to take things into your own hands, it's like it just ends up being twice as long. Like one of my teachers asked me to build something for her, and she said, "Do you need the instructions?" I was like, "Nah, I got it." It took like an hour when it should have taken like 15 minutes. But it was just a simple like basketball rack, and I was like, "No, I'm not going to use the instructions because I'm a man."
I'm a man. I can do
Yeah,
this.
and my pride got the best of me, and I was like, maybe I should have used the instructions, but it was too late. I was already half an hour in when I realized I was wrong. I was like, I can't turn back now.
Oh my word. No, yeah, I think it's relatable. I think we all do that. So in terms of, I guess, thinking about the end result of what happens when we kind of take matters into our own hands, in times where you've had to wait on God, so maybe you're in that same place the Israelites were, where you're not necessarily given a time period of how long it's going to be. So it really is just faithful waiting. What are some things that you've done, I guess, to help you stay patient in those areas?
But yeah, that's a really good question. So, like, as we've both said and admitted, I'm not a very patient person sometimes. Like, with other people, I'm very patient. Like, I don't get mad easily. But, like, with myself and, like, my personal goals, I get very impatient. So, what I try to do is just, like, I have a hard time reading with the whole dyslexia thing. So, like, reading the Bible is, like, really hard for me. But I have to like force myself to sit down, and I, instead of taking the time and reading it myself, I like to go online, search like verses that have to do with a certain topic. Like, just like researching stuff for this episode, I researched verses that have to do with patience, so that I could help myself be more patient, because I don't even have the patience to sit through and find the verses myself. I have to ask other people via Google.
Sure. Which I think is an awesome opportunity with technology nowadays. So you don't have to necessarily go very far or search very hard to find an answer now, which is great. I think in time, like for myself, I tend to try to ask myself a couple questions when I feel myself getting impatient. And the first thing that I ask myself is there anything, is there anything that I should do with whatever I'm being impatient about, to, I guess, steer some of that impatience? Not in the sense of like taking matters into my own hands, but essentially asking myself, can I even do anything about it? Because I find a lot of the times where I'm impatient, the reality of it is I'm impatient about something that no matter what I was to try to do at that time, I can't fix it. And when I kind of admit that or that fact to myself, the only other solution that I have then is to just kind of wait on God's time, and not let it worry me, like not let it upset or frustrate me. So that's one question that I tend to ask that helps me kind of stay patient.
I always have to ask myself, like, is it really worth getting upset and worked up about? Because, like, a lot of the stuff in our lives is, like, not to say, like, it's not important, but, like, a lot of the stuff, we overreact a little bit.
Yeah.
So, like, I find myself, like, a lot of situations I'll get worked up about, like, it's not really worth it. I'd rather be positive than waste all my energy getting impatient about something that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think, and we talked about this a little bit, and kind of wrapping back into the Israelites too. Some of the times where I'm impatient, where I need to really look at and try to stay patient, I really have to ask myself though too, am I getting impatient because of something like I have to wait, which I feel like sometimes there are those times where you just have to wait. You may not know when a result's going to come up, and you may never see that result either. God may work in a different area that somebody else is affected and you're not necessarily able to see it. But I feel like you also have to ask yourself in times of impatience, am I getting impatient because I have to wait and I'm trying to? Or am I impatient because what I'm waiting for isn't happening the way that I want it to? And I feel like if you are trying, and I'm guilty of this, if we're trying to make God do something, or we are praying for a certain result rather than following and letting God give us the result, a lot of my impatience comes from that place.
Yeah, it's like I think I agree with that. Yeah, it's like most of the time I get impatient. It's like even if things are like happening and my life is moving like forward, I feel like it's not because it's not going the way I want it. Like things will change in my life, but it won't change the way I wanted it to. Or like I'll be put into a situation that I'm like, is this really uh like the change that I asked for? I don't think this is what I had in mind. But then it ends up actually working out and being a good situation. But at first I'm like, this is kind of uncomfortable. But usually when your patience is, resolved and you're not being impatient anymore, and you finally arrive, it's like sometimes it's like a really uncomfortable situation. Like I'm sure with the Israelites, like walking through the desert was probably not the most comfortable of scenarios.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I would say too, if you're somebody who is an impatient person, or you feel like maybe God isn't necessarily there at a certain moment, which is gonna, I think, happen for everybody at some point, I would highly recommend, if you're impatient, a lot of that impatience is gonna come partially from boredom. Go and get involved. Find something to keep your mind off of whatever you're impatient about. Whether that be, going to youth activities or doing something at your church or just going out and hanging out with friends or whatever. I feel like if you start to try to do something for other people to help somebody else's life, rather than just focusing on your own situation that has got you impatient, that's going to help steer a lot of that impatience away from just sitting there. And the Israelites, I feel like, did this as well. It was, I'm going to sit here and just wait. They didn't necessarily do anything else. They just kind of sat there for 46 some odd days twiddling their thumbs. I think that had maybe they gone and tried to do something to, we talk a lot about worship on here, do something to worship God in the time that they're waiting. Maybe it's just singing songs or doing whatever, other than just sitting there and waiting for something to happen. I think their patience would have been at least decreased a little bit more. Maybe they would have made it for, 47 and a half days. So,
Oh yeah, that's like a lot like our current situation with the coronation. It's like we could just sit here and do nothing and just wait for it to be over, wait for us to like get back to our normal lives. It probably won't be very normal, but we could also like actually be productive. Like I started trying to, instead of like playing video games all day, which I'm very guilty of, like sitting down, reading, writing, or like exercising, because I haven't been to the gym in like 2 months because of the corona. So I've been slacking, but
I've not been to the gym in like 3 years because of the coronavirus. It's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, I feel that.
But and in speaking of patience, I wanted to kind of talk about our quiz question for this week.
Oh yeah,
trivia. Did it do? So here's our trivia question for this week. And in terms of patience, we've talked a lot about like wait times for rides. And so my curiosity after my own personal experience in dealing with wait times at parks and everything like that, I wanted to know what was the longest wait time ever that could be essentially verified at Disney World. So the question for this week, how many minutes and for what ride was the longest verified wait time for a Disney World ride? And let me tell you, I was not necessarily surprised by the answer just from personal experience.
Yeah, it's like knowing the answer to this. I'm like, I could not imagine being in that line.
I don't think I could have. Although thinking back on personal experience of being in Disney World wait times, specifically being in a wait for this particular ride, I feel like I could have. I would have been the person who would have waited for as long as this particular answer and just wasted my life.
I couldn't.
So I mean, we can talk about this more next time, and I don't want to give anything away, but like, what in the world are you doing for the amount of minutes you're waiting for this ride? Like, what if I have to pee? There ain't no bathroom.
You're to the back of the line with you, I guess.
Oh, that would be sad.
It's like, because you can't stand on your phone, because in parks like that, they just like drain your phone battery, so it'll die in like 20 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
So I guess like just lean against a pole and fall asleep, I guess. There's nothing else to do.
Well, take a look at the answer, or try to do it without Google. Take some random guesses. If you're not familiar with like Disney parks, maybe look up what rides they've got and just kind of pick one that you think, maybe it's one of these. I will say this, it is Disney World, so you got to keep in mind, you got 4 different parks. So keep in mind, it might not just be one specific one. But have some fun trying to guess what that time is and what ride it's for. And we'll give you the answer for that next week and talk about it, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Right before we wrap this episode up, I have some news. So as you all know, the podcast is on Anchor, Spotify, and YouTube. Actually on 2 YouTube channels, on our personal Plant the Seed podcast one and the Beacon Students one. But now it is on iTunes. It has been put on iTunes within the last week, so now it's on all the major platforms. We are very excited, and all the links are on the website, so you can find all those in the description below.
Yeah, and huge thank you for you all as well. The first podcast finally crossed the line of, I think, 100 views, which was awesome. We're happy to see that people are enjoying it. We can't wait to keep on doing these. These are a lot of fun. We hope that you guys are having fun too. But yes, thank you for all of the viewers who are on there and listening. We have made a quarter now, which is I was so excited. Like, oh my gosh, we got 25 cents.
Yeah, we've made 119 grooves.
Yes. I should do the math. Yeah, you're right. 119 grooves plus a penny, which I don't think has any grooves. So we have made our first 119 grooves. If you don't know what we mean by that, go back and watch episode 2, where at the very beginning we give the answer to one of the quiz questions. That's how we're counting pennies and quarters now. But yeah, 119 grooves. Congratulations to us. Yay. We have now, it's kind of funny though, because my dad texted me afterwards, because I texted him and was like, we made a quarter. And he's like, great. How do you tithe 10% on that? And I was like, well, technically we have to pay 25 cents to even get the money out. So at 26 cents, we made a penny. So we'll have to figure out how we tithe 10% of 1 cent.
Oh yeah, just cut it into like 10 little parts and give them one.
Just give them one. There you go. I'm going to frame the other ones and keep them and be like, this is the first penny that we made. So awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. We can't wait for you to join us for part 2 next week, where we're going to talk a little bit more on meeting God's expectations. So until next time, just remember to be different, do different. Thanks.